We've decided to keep Thanksgiving peaceful. No rowdy kids this time, my dad wrote. My boy looked up. Are we the rowdy ones? I just hugged him and replied, understood, I'll cancel my card. They kept sending group photos from the table, oblivious, until the check arrived and every card they tried declined. It started with a group text on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. I was in the kitchen trying to figure out whether the sweet potatoes I'd bought 2 weeks ago were still good when my phone buzzed on the counter. I glanced at the screen. It was from my dad. We've decided to keep Thanksgiving peaceful. No rowdy kids this time. No hi, no, hope you're well, not even my name. Just that. Sent to the whole family group chat. My 2 sisters, my mom and me. I froze. Read it again. Then I saw the photo he attached. The dining table already set. Polished silverware, fancy napkin rings, wine glasses lined up like they were expecting royalty. And there he was, grinning in the background, holding up a glass of red wine like it was a toast. Underneath his message, the responses had already started coming in. Emily, nice. Going to be such a relaxing evening this year. Rachel, honestly good call. Mom reacted with a heart. I didn't respond. Not yet. I looked over at my kids. Noah was on the floor building a Lego spaceship. Emma was sitting cross-legged on the couch drawing a turkey with googly eyes. They weren't even being loud. They weren't doing anything wrong. And yet here I was being told, no, informed, that my children were unwelcome. I didn't even have to ask what he meant. My dad's never been subtle. He thinks his house is some kind of sanctuary and the presence of normal, giggling kids, his grandkids, somehow disrupts the peace. Just then Noah got up and walked over. I didn't realize he had seen the message until he quietly asked, are we the rowdy ones? I wanted to say something comforting. I wanted to tell him Grandpa didn't mean it. But I'm tired of lying for that man. So I just hugged him and said, understood, I'll cancel my card. He didn't know what I meant. But he nodded and went back to his Legos. I sat down and opened the banking app. I had access to 2 accounts that my dad and mom used. Ones I set up for them years ago when they started needing help with their bills. I used to pay everything for them, mortgage, insurance, groceries, and I never made a big deal out of it. I just wanted them to be okay. Wanted them to feel taken care of, even if he'd never really done the same for me growing up. But that text changed everything. It wasn't just about Thanksgiving. It was the way he decided we didn't belong, like we were a burden he was finally brave enough to cut off. Like my kids didn't matter. So I canceled the cards. Froze the bill pay. I even deleted the automatic transfer I sent my mom each month for household expenses. And then I left the group chat. No one noticed. Not immediately. They just kept sending photos over the next couple of days. Pictures of pies, my dad playing chess with Rachel's son because he's quiet, my sisters posing with glasses of wine, everyone laughing. A perfectly curated Thanksgiving. A perfectly curated family. I said nothing. And then Thursday came. And after dinner, after the wine, when the plates were cleared and someone finally asked for the check, that's when they noticed. From what I later heard, and not from them of course, but from my cousin Jenna who helps out at the same country club my parents think gives them status. It happened just after dessert. They'd gone out to that overpriced place on the lake, the one with white tablecloths and a dress code even at lunch. My dad always insisted on paying the check to look generous, even though it was my money behind the card. Everyone knew it. No one talked about it. So after the pumpkin pie and the espresso, when the server brought over the bill in one of those little black folders, my dad handed over the usual card. The gold one I'd added him to 5 years ago when he pretended he didn't understand how online banking worked. Declined. He laughed, according to Jenna. Said something about banks being stupid on holidays. Pulled out the second card. The one I paid off monthly tied directly to my own account. He used it like it was his birthright. Declined. The room got quiet. He asked the server to run it again. Declined. At that point he started getting red. My sisters were confused. I know Emily probably jumped in with a joke, tried to lighten it up, but Rachel must have caught on faster. She always understood the money came from me, even if she didn't like admitting it. Eventually he asked my mom for her card. That one got declined too, because of course it was the same shared account. 3 cards, 3 declines. And that was when he knew. I wasn't there, but I can imagine it exactly. The way he leaned back, embarrassed but trying to save face, like the waiter had made the mistake. Then the moment it clicked. Not just that the cards weren't working, but why they weren't. He must have gone silent for a second. Just long enough for everyone else at the table to sense it. That little shift in the air where the image of control slips. They ended up pooling together cash. Jenna said Emily had to cover most of it and she looked pissed. My mom didn't say much. Just sat there. After that, dinner ended fast. They didn't send any more photos. I figured I'd hear from him eventually. I expected the call that night or the next morning. But I didn't. Not until Friday night just after I got the kids to bed. There was no knock. No warning. Just headlights in the driveway, a car door slamming, then his voice outside the house. I didn't move. Just waited. I already knew what was coming. Then he burst through the door. He didn't bother knocking. Just opened the front door like it was still his house. Like he hadn't just made it clear we didn't belong at his table. The kids were asleep upstairs. The lights were low. I'd been sitting on the couch folding laundry, trying not to think about any of it when he stormed in. How dare you? That's the first thing he said. Not a question. Not a greeting. Just that. His voice low and sharp. He looked around the living room like he was looking for proof that I had become someone unforgivable. I stood up, blocking the hallway. Don't yell. The kids are sleeping. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. He wasn't here to listen anyway. I don't care about them. You had no right to touch those accounts. No right. That's our money. You've been sending it for years. I didn't say anything at first. Just looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who had spent his life acting like he was doing everyone a favor by existing. This man who had never once babysat his grandkids, never showed up to a school play, never even asked how they were doing. But now he was standing in my house, red in the face, demanding access to the money I earned. He kept going. Said I had humiliated him. That the family was laughing at him now. That I'd ruined Thanksgiving and made a scene, like I was the one who announced someone's kids weren't welcome. Unblock the cards. And I expect the December transfer on the 1st, just like always. And that was when my mom walked in. She must have followed him, probably in her own car, knowing how he is when he gets like this. She stepped into the room quietly, not saying a word at first. Just watching. Listening. He turned to her like she was a witness for the prosecution. Tell her to stop this. But she didn't say anything. Not to him. Not right away. She just looked around the room. The toys scattered near the fireplace, the photos of the kids on the mantel, the drawings taped to the fridge. Things she hadn't seen in a long time. She used to visit all the time before he decided they were too noisy and too messy. She looked at me, then back at him. You said you didn't care about them? Silence. He started talking again, trying to explain, trying to justify, but she cut him off. And it wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it was just final. He said she was done. She didn't want to be part of this anymore. The dinners, the performances, the pretending that he was still some kind of family man when everything he did was about image and control and money. He laughed, tried to act like she was being dramatic, but it was hollow. He knew. She walked over to me and asked if she could stay the night. I said of course. He left without another word. Slammed the door on his way out. Upstairs, one of the kids stirred but didn't wake up. Downstairs, my mom sat on the edge of the couch and took a deep breath like she hadn't in years. She asked if I had any tea. I made her tea in silence. Chamomile. She used to drink it every night when I was a kid. I hadn't made it for her in years. She sat there on the couch, hands around the mug like she needed the warmth more than the drink. I expected her to cry or to say something dramatic, but she didn't. My mom's never been like that. She grew up being taught that quiet meant strong. That suffering in silence made you noble. But she wasn't silent anymore. She didn't talk about Thanksgiving. Not directly. Instead, she started mentioning things that for decades had gone unsaid. Small things. Things that built up over time. Like how he used to make her ask for grocery money instead of giving her access to the accounts. How he'd make a show of helping out at family events but only after the pictures were taken. How he always acted like he was supporting me and the kids when it was me supporting them, ever since his consulting jobs dried up 10 years ago and he never said a word to anyone. She said she'd started noticing it more when the kids were born. How he would act like he was doing us a favor by tolerating their presence in his house, as if noise and crayons and spilled juice were beneath him. She told me she never agreed with what he said in the group chat. That she'd hearted the message without reading it fully, because she always did, because she was used to keeping the peace. She looked around my living room again and said it felt more like a home than their house ever did. She didn't say she regretted the marriage. But she didn't have to. I asked if she had somewhere to go. A friend maybe, or a plan. She shook her head. Then she looked me in the eye and asked if she could stay longer. Not just the night. A while. Of course, I said. I told her we'd figure it out. The house wasn't big, but the kids would love having her around. And more than that, I wanted her around. She smiled, and for a second she looked younger. Not in her face exactly, but in her posture. Like something had been unknotted inside her. Like the weight of him had finally been lifted. We sat in the living room for a while, drinking tea, not saying much. Then I set up the guest room. It used to be a storage space, but I cleared it out, found some clean sheets, and plugged in an old space heater. She didn't complain. Just thanked me and closed the door gently behind her. That night I lay awake for a long time. I didn't regret cutting the accounts. I didn't feel guilty. But it struck me how fast things can fall apart when someone's power was only held together by money and silence. And now both were gone. He didn't call the next day. But the messages started. First from Rachel. Then Emily. Both dancing around it like they weren't taking sides, but still clearly on his. Rachel said it was harsh, what I did. That I should have at least warned them before cutting off their retirement safety net. Their retirement safety net. That phrase stayed with me for hours. I never agreed to fund his lifestyle. I agreed to help my parents. When his businesses failed, when the savings ran out, I stepped in. Quietly. Consistently. Because they were my family, and that's what you do. I didn't know my support was being called a retirement plan behind my back. Emily's text was shorter, more passive-aggressive. Something about how she hoped I felt good about myself. That ruining Thanksgiving for everyone must have felt empowering. I didn't answer either of them. That weekend my mom stayed busy. She helped with the kids, cleaned parts of the house I hadn't even thought about in months, and started meal prepping like it was second nature. At night we'd sit at the table and talk, mostly about normal things. Schools, her old hobbies, what TV shows she'd missed. But every now and then something would slip. Little stories. Like how Dad had started controlling who she could talk to after his last job ended. How he told her not to bother the grandkids too much. How he discouraged her from visiting me, said I was too sensitive, and that the kids were just a handful. She admitted she hadn't even realized how isolated she'd become. How much she had accepted as normal. Then Monday came. That morning a formal letter arrived. Folded perfectly in a white envelope, slipped into the mailbox by hand. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. My dad's. I opened it at the kitchen table. It was short. He said he was disappointed. That I had destroyed the balance of the family. That he expected restitution for the financial disruption I caused. He gave me until the end of the week to restore the previous arrangements, or else he'd have no choice but to pursue further action. It didn't even sound like him. It sounded like something drafted by a bad lawyer with a bruised ego. I slid the letter across the table to my mom. She read it once, then tore it clean down the middle. He won't do anything, she said. He's bluffing. He doesn't want anyone to see how little he has. I nodded, but still something twisted in my stomach. Not fear, just disbelief. That after all the years, all the effort to keep things together, this is how he responded. Like I was a business asset walking away from a bad investment. I took the letter and threw it out. Later that night, when I tucked the kids in, Noah asked if we'd be going to Grandpa's for Christmas. I told him no. We'd be staying here. With people who actually liked being together. He nodded. Emma asked if Grandma was going to live with us forever now. I looked at my mom standing in the doorway holding a basket of folded towels. I said if she wants to, yes. A week went by. No call. No lawyer. No further action. Just silence. I think he expected me to back down. He'd always relied on that. The discomfort, the guilt, the pressure to keep things from falling apart. That was his whole thing. Be just difficult enough that people give in before he has to actually do anything. But this time no one flinched. Especially not my mom. She didn't go back. Not to pack a bag, not to talk things through, not even to get the rest of her clothes. She said she didn't need anything from that house. Not a couch, not a photo album, not a memory. She bought a few things online, picked up some essentials, and asked if we could look into a small savings account in her name. I opened one for her that same day. Then she started calling her old friends again. Got in touch with her sister in Vermont. They hadn't spoken in 4 years, not because they'd fought, but because Dad didn't like her visiting nosy relatives. Meanwhile, the family chat stayed quiet for a few days. Then out of nowhere, Rachel sent a message. Just to me. No emojis this time. No sarcasm. She asked if I'd really cut him off forever. I replied, "He made it clear we're not welcome. I'm just honoring that." She didn't argue. She didn't agree either. Just left it on read. Emily didn't say a word. Still hasn't. By the second weekend, it was like something shifted in the house. My mom started baking again. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon and vanilla every night. The kids ran to her every morning. Noah started calling her roomy grandma. And Emma insisted she read bedtime stories even if I already had. And for once it felt normal. No tension. No walking on eggshells waiting for someone to say the wrong thing. One afternoon, my mom and I were sitting on the porch while the kids played in the yard. She looked up from her tea and said almost casually, "I forgot what it felt like to be around people who aren't afraid of making noise." I didn't answer right away. Then she looked at me and said something I'll never forget. "You didn't just save me from him. You reminded me who I used to be." That was when I knew there was no going back. A few days later, she filed for divorce. She did it quietly. Sent the papers through a lawyer, nothing dramatic. He got them on a Tuesday. That night, for the first time since Thanksgiving, I got one final message from him. No greeting. No explanation. Just 2 words. "You win." I didn't reply. Because this wasn't a game. This was a family. And he lost it. Not because someone took it from him, but because he thought love could be earned with money and maintained with silence. He was wrong. And I don't think he ever saw that coming. Now it's November again. A full year later. This time we're hosting Thanksgiving here. Mom's cooking. The kids are decorating paper turkeys and cutting out leaves from construction paper. We invited Jenna from the country club. She doesn't talk to my dad anymore either. A couple of neighbors are coming too. No dress code. No formal speeches. And a lot of laughter. The house is louder now. Fuller. Happier. And if that's what he meant by rowdy, I'll take that every single time.